round
right.
Symmetry logo. So I think we have a video now. Shall we veil and mute? You should always go to conference, because when you leave, you're better than when you showed up. You're going to be able to learn how to make a lot more money. You're going to learn how to be a better friend, parent, spouse, partner, certainly business person. You're going to learn how to be a better human being at our conferences.
I believe people should come to conference because there are a few opportunities in our life where we get to have an experience that allows us to drop the conditions and remove the conditions from our success. Where we can finally see something that's compelling enough and feel something that's big enough for us to say, no matter what, I'm gonna be successful, because I'd rather know what it takes and find out if I have what it takes than assume that I don't.
If you don't go to conference, 96% chance in 6 months you won't be here. So it really depends on how bad you want it. A lot of people say they can't afford it. I say if you can't afford it, you can't afford not to be there. If you keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to get the same results you've been getting.
I didn't go to the first conference. I wouldn't have made it in this business. When I went to conference, I really got all the dots connected that were missing. We can't teach people really what this company has to offer, like on the big scale on Zoom, right? Like that's really just for the mechanics, but to get the vision, that's what you get at conference.
Figuring out how to get to conference that first year, wearing a suit that was too big for me, sitting in the back far left corner listening to Brian Pope and Brian Delaney and Casey and Brandon, that's when I found myself. That's when I stopped thinking, try to get the best. That's when I started thinking, try to be the best.
One word about conference: new beginnings.
Education,
Impact,
opportunity,
gratitude,
inspiration,
belief, value,
hope.
There you go, buddy.
that's good.
Is
Oh,
new
really
beginnings 2 words though?
New
I feel like I
beginnings?
messed that up a little bit. Is it 1 word?
I wouldn't think so.
I don't think so either.
I don't know. Maybe somebody can let us know in the chat if there's any time that you would use new beginnings as 1 word. Maybe you could throw a hyphen in there.
I feel like Lindsay was setting me up as a joke, and I don't think she put it in the video as a joke.
You got to be careful, man. Sometimes you got to come back around and clean that stuff up.
I know.
You know?
It's funny. That was good though. Good stuff.
Yeah, it was a lot of got me really excited about conference. I love what Brad says, what we always say too. It's anybody that says they can't afford to be there, ain't you tired of not being able to afford things? We can help you with that, but you first have to help yourself. You first must help yourself. All right, so just looking at my screen here, Mr. Brock, it's a great family photo of you and the crew. Like that. That wasn't some kind of iPhone shot. That looked professionally done there, buddy.
Indeed.
Right? Sometimes you gotta pony up a little bit to get those good shots, don't you?
Indeed.
Right.
Indeed. That's right. So give us a little hint of what you've got on tap for us today, buddy.
Well, man, I love the variety of backgrounds that we have across this company, and this call is a good representation of that. We've got a preacher, we've got a former oil field engineer, and we've got a teacher / principal turned Symmetry rock stars. So all of them, consistent 20,000 a month producers. Amazing each in their own way, and just all of them have the spirit of a warrior in them, and I'm excited to turn them loose on you today.
That's really exciting, man. Well, I know they are blessed to have your leadership, and if I can, let me just ask you a couple of questions because we've got a little time. I won't ask you too many, but I love this question because we oftentimes have some new people looking in at the first time, and we like to be as transparent as possible. Deric, what would you say is the hardest part of this business for you?
I love that, because the title of our call, Brandon, is hard compared to what? And so that's what we're going to talk about.
It ain't hard compared to working out in the oil fields. I can tell you
exactly.
Or being a teacher these days, Lord. That's really hard work.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So I think in its simplest terms, hard, everything is relative. And keeping proper perspective is crucial. But I think to give you a tangible answer, I think though the hardest thing the hump that people have to get over is really believing that this can happen for them. Because when that's why belief, I know, is the first of the 4 cornerstones, because everything is built off of it. If you believe that it's going to happen for you, then you're going to be willing to do whatever it takes.
Totally agree. Totally. And I would say that, there's something new that's hard at every level, right? Like as a producer, especially if you're someone that has come from a W-2 background, managing your activity is the most important thing to do. It's also probably the hardest thing to do, to get back on the phones or to get back to work when you don't feel like getting back to work. That's what separates the people that win from the people that don't. Being able to kind of lean into the discomfort of trying something new and knowing that in order to succeed here, you got to fail a little bit, right? And I think that's true with pretty much anything you try to do. Maybe it's a little bit of a different story when you're kind of relying on that for your own income. And so I think not putting too much pressure on yourself is important in the beginning, and trying to really narrow your focus when you're new. If we're talking to the new people, narrow your focus. Casey and I were in this business for probably 7 or 8 years with 2 companies, 2 products, well, maybe 4 products, but 2 companies, right? And I think sometimes people can allow themselves to get overwhelmed with all the different choices and options and what should I be focused on. And I think that's why the leaders are so important in this organization, because they have a way of making the challenging simple. It's never going to be easy. So if anybody recruited you and told you it was going to be easy, we're here to tell you that it's not going to be easy. It is certainly easier than some things. It is very simple. And once you master it, it does feel very easy. But then you get to recruiting people, which you shouldn't wait to do, but you should eventually begin recruiting people, managing time between how I'm recruiting, mentoring, training, still handling my personal production is very difficult. And then as you kind of move up the levels of leadership, it really boils down to the hard part is between my ears. It's making sure that I can continue to get better on the really challenging things, which are dealing with people, right? What is my emotional intelligence looking like? How am I leading others positively? Because our best leaders in this organization have a way of being exceptionally positive, because it's a business, Deric, where you can get your butt kicked out there at any moment. And if you see it as getting your butt kicked, it gets even harder. Most people try to see it as just a step along the way to success, right? So if I get 3 no's, I'm that much closer to some yeses. But managing people is one of the hardest things, I think, for most people, and doing it in a positive way. We have a saying, kind is clear. We lean into kind of difficult conversations. You and I've had to do that some throughout the years in your organization, and you've been a great example of how to do that. So we're grateful for you, buddy. Excited for what you're putting together, excited for who you have on the call. And I will shut up now so you can run with it. Appreciate you, man.
I appreciate
Thanks,
you.
Deric.
Thanks, Casey. What you're really talking about there, Brandon, is a business owner mindset. And that's one of the advantages, if you want to say, which you leverage things that are as an advantage or a disadvantage. You got to choose to use it to your advantage, right? And so, but I was a business owner for 13 years prior to coming to Symmetry. So I came in with not an employee mindset, but with a business owner mindset. And I think one of the wisest questions that a new agent can ask is, if you recognize that you either need to have a business owner mindset or will be willing to develop one. And if you don't know how a business owner thinks, then that's a great question to ask your mentor. Hey, how can I learn to think like a business owner rather than an employee?
I think that's a great question for you. What advice would you give for some people that may be struggling with that?
Well, I think it starts with, when I owned my own business, I'll use my experience as an example. When I bought my business, when you start out from day one with a 6-figure loan from the local bank, there's only one way out, and that's forward. You got to make it happen. And that's a big part of the mentality. You know, I didn't have a boss looking over my shoulder that was going to fire me if I didn't do what I was supposed to do. The bank might take my house, but I wasn't going to get fired from my job. And, you know, I didn't have to clock in, clock out, but it was up to me. And I embraced that. I loved that it was all on me, the empowerment of that. And so you can see that as either as a limiting belief, or as one of the greatest advantages we have is, man, I am empowered to, in my old business, if I wanted to make more money, fine, go generate some new business and make more money, do whatever you have to do. And you got to understand that it was 8 years, Brandon, of grinding in my old business. It was 8 years of scratching and clawing to survive before we came up for air and started to get a little bit of margin where we felt like we could breathe a little bit. It was just survival mode and fight and fight and fight. The beauty here is you're not going to have to fight near that long to win if you'll do things the right way. And so it's all about mindset. Yeah. And leaving, whether you're leaving yourself a back door or not. In my case, my loan from the local bank came from my best friend. He was a vice president. That's the only way I got that loan, is he put his career on the line to give me a loan because he believed in me and he trusted me that I would make good on it. And so if I go down, I'm taking him with me. And so the stakes were just too high. Losing was not an option. And now sometimes the price was incredibly high. Working around the clock, getting no sleep, going without food, whatever it took, we had to get it done. And that's the mentality that wins.
I totally agree. And I love what you said. Like you don't have to do it for that long here. The people that came before you we all made plenty of mistakes for everyone. Just do what we say works and continue to find a way to stay engaged, involved, mentally sharp, working on yourself. One of the things I think that is, Casey, you're going to hear a lot more from us that we'll be talking more about is, I think there's this idea that that you forever have to kind of just work your butt off to get what you want in this life. And let me be the first to tell you, if no one's told you this, you may have to do that for a little while. Hopefully it's for a very short while. We want you to work smarter, because what you need to be working your butt off on is the things that you enjoy doing, being with your family, being in service to other people. Now you have to work hard at your business to get it to a point where you can do that. But I think there's always this idea, Casey, you and I both grew up with it for sure, that life has to be this grind. And your first 8 years, Deric, what you're talking about with this other business is like, that is the reality, I think, for most business owners, certainly small business owners. And that's not what we're going for. Some people find their passion in working more. We want you to continue doing that if you want. Others find their passion in doing other things that bring, positivity to their lives. And that's where we want you to get to. Everything that we do behind the scenes is about time as much as it is money. And there are a lot of people out here making a whole heck of a lot of money in this organization. So there's a lot of examples of that. But you got to be clear on what you're doing.
And I would just add to that, Brandon, a lot of that too, not to step on anything you guys are going to be talking about, Deric, but it is what are you filling your time with when you're working, and we always kind of, I think the way we approached it entrepreneurially was to we're always kind of trying to elevate ourselves and always trying to fire ourselves from whatever it is we're doing. I'm always trying to find out what is that next highest value thing I can be doing, because if I begin with the end in mind, and the end in mind is how much time do I want to spend doing the things I love to do. And if I start with that and I say, I don't want my life to be run by a business or by, whatever, I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it. And I begin with the end in mind. It forces me into a position to always be striving for that next highest value thing. When you're new, that's nothing but making phone calls, setting appointments, talking to families, recruiting and leading. And if I can get rid of all the other stuff that I am doing, if I can fire myself from those positions and continue to elevate myself and learn to lead people and surround myself with a team that can support, a team that can drive, and I align myself with a company that also gives you tools and systems and stuff like that to leverage, man, that's the sweet spot. But you've got to recognize that, and you've got to kind of, as Brandon said, you don't buy into this, like, I got to wake up at, 4 a.m. and I got to clock out at 10:30 at night. Like, you just got to figure out a way to put yourself in line with the things that you bring value to the table with, because if you spend your time doing other stuff all day, you're just going to burn out. You're just going to burn out.
Sure.
Deric, we've all been there before. Like, I'm just doing too much stuff that doesn't fill me up. I can tell I'm not in my strength zone. And yeah, love that, man.
Yep. It's a really good
Love
message.
the topic today. This is such a
Yep.
good topic for the timing right now in our company, dude.
It is.
Good. Very good.
Go for it, DB.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Man, I tell you, I'm so grateful to you guys, what you guys, along with Brian, have created. And as Carl mentioned earlier, what you've done in the last 2 years to just take it to, not just to say you've taken it to another level doesn't do it justice. It's a totally different game than it was 2.5 years ago. And I'm so grateful. And we say all the time, again, speaking to the understanding that there's a lot of new people on this call, you hear people say, man, this has changed our life. And that starts to, sound like Charlie Brown's teacher to you. I get it, just blah, blah, blah. It's changed your life. Yeah. So what? Because they only see us after we're winning, right? They didn't see the grind portion of the program. But man, I'm just a small town Oklahoma boy who never had big dreams or a big vision for my life. Man, my dream was just to simply maybe be a little less broke than my parents were. Right? Anybody relate to that? That's not a real big goal, but that's all I knew from where I came from. And so to allow me to explode my vision for my life and realize that the more money I make, the more impact I can have, the more I can give away, because you can't give away what you don't have. And so you guys have opened a whole new world to me in terms of the impact that I'm able to have with my beautiful wife and kids, and the things we're able to do together and to teach together, serve together, the impact. And because of the legacy opportunity that you guys have created through agency ownership, I know that the impact is just beginning, and it's going to go on generationally because of what you guys have done. So, man, I'm just really grateful for that, brothers.
Thank you, man.
So, and listen, I want to, as we transition into bringing on our guests here, we're going to bring a little bit of high support and high challenge today, and which is where healthy relationships live. If that's new language to you, that is the only quadrant in the support challenge matrix where healthy relationships hang out, is where there can be high support and high challenge. And the title of this call, again, is hard compared to what? Because let's face it, this business is hard at times, as Brandon and Casey talked about. But if we can train our minds and our emotions to always follow any thought of hard with compared to what, then it will keep us grounded in a good space. And I believe that our main job as leaders is to help people keep proper perspective. And hard compared to what addresses that. And so, because I think here's what that leads to. Too often when we start talking about how hard something is, it's really just setting the stage for us to make an excuse as to why we're not getting the results we want. Anybody relate to that? And we're beginning to paint ourselves as a victim, right? Now, there's a book, Business Made Simple by Donald Miller. Thank you, Brian Delaney, for introducing that book to me. But has a section entitled "See Yourself as a Hero, Not a Victim," that opens with this statement. It says, if you asked me to predict whether somebody will be a success in life, I could do so by asking one question about them. And that question is this: how often do they position themselves as a victim? Because we can't be a victim and a hero at the same time. Right? That's just a fact. We have to, we get to choose which we're going to be, but it is an either or scenario. In my personal experience, one of my big hardships in my life was in my high school years, from my freshman year in high school to my junior year, through my junior year in high school, I was either on crutches, in a body cast, laying in a hospital bed, or in a wheelchair for 22 months. Now that was really hard. but I learned, thank God for helping me develop, even at that age, helping me learn an appreciation. One, I remember praying, don't ever let me forget what this feels like so that I'll live with empathy for the rest of my life and compassion for people that are disabled. But the hard compared to what, my experience then was hard, but compared to the paralyzed guy, it wasn't so bad. I knew mine had an end date. At some point, I'm going to get well and I'm going to be able to walk again. And I'm eventually going to be able to run again and do the things I enjoy doing. So hard, well, compared to the paralyzed guy would trade places with me in a heartbeat, right? So keeping proper perspective kept me in a healthy mental and emotional place while I went through the hardship. And the same is so applicable for our career here, because we deal with people. And as long as we're in a people business, there's going to be some hard stretches, right? Because I know I'm hard as a person to deal with sometimes, and so is everybody else. So there's going to be some hard things. There's going to be some hard financial seasons in our life. So what? All right, hard compared to what? As long as I've got breath in me, I can keep fighting. And so that's the perspective we want to maintain, to establish and maintain here, and embracing the fact that this Symmetry opportunity that you guys have created is the opportunity for all of us to be the hero in the story, because nobody wants to stay the victim. We've all been victims of something, some worse than others. I get that. I embrace that. And I don't downplay that. But at some point, we've got to adult up and own it and say, all right, now, how am I going to leverage the pain that I've experienced to this point in my life? How can I leverage it to make me great? Because you're going to go one or two ways with it. I had a conversation yesterday with a young man that was a part of one of my youth groups when I was a youth pastor. His marriage has fallen apart, and he's got a wife, 2 kids, and he's throwing it all away because he's locked in victim mentality. And if he won't listen to that counsel and wake up and own it, then his life is going to continue to go off the rails. This is one of the greatest truths we can grab a hold of, is that we have the opportunity to choose whether we're going to remain a victim or we're going to become the hero. So I'm going to transition here. I'm going to share the stage with these other people you need to hear from, because I've got 3 studs on the line today, and we're going to do our best, Brandon and Casey, to honor the stop time. We may blow a little past 1, but I promise you we won't blow way past it, because we did get a late start. But we're gonna be efficient and productive and impactful with the time that we do have. And so I'm going to get out of the way. And the first fellow that I'm going to introduce is, I mentioned that we have a pastor, an engineer, and a school teacher / principal to feature here today. And this first guy is the preacher part of the program, from Southern Georgia, Statesboro, Georgia. Just a good man that I have a lot of respect for. We've built a great relationship, a great friendship over the last few months. Just been here a few months. Last summer, July, I think, is when we first connected. And he's really having an impact in our team and the community and the culture we're building here. And he's got a great experience. And so, John, I'm just going to get out of the way and let you tell your story, brother, and do your thing. So there you go, Mr.
Well, I
John
appreciate you, Deric. I appreciate you. And I came into the insurance business 20 years ago. And as a pastor, I found myself suddenly without a job. The church just fired me suddenly. And I woke up on Monday and had to find work. And previously I had done construction work. I had been in the logging business, and those were really hard on the body. So I found an ad in the paper that said insurance sales, will train, no experience necessary. And the company was Liberty National, and they were a pretty big deal in that part of the company. So I came along, no leads, no training. They pretty much threw you out there and said, do it or die. And I did pretty well, and I made their national trips, and I was pretty much a star. And I had no confidence that I could continue because there was no lead system, and I just had to go out and hustle up clients. And I really didn't have confidence in the management. So I was looking for somewhere else to go. And I eventually transitioned over into a final expense on the road, lead driven type business where I was traveling 4 states, and it was bad on the body. Basically, you would stay gone 3 or 4 days at a time, and you could easily get killed in a wreck or a storm and what have you. I was making good money, but I knew the model was not sustainable. So I was approached by a nationally known P&C company and asked to start an office in my hometown of Statesboro, Georgia. And I said, great, if it gets me off the road. So I started doing P&C, life, and financials. Again, there was no lead system. I had to just go out there and hustle up business. And with this company, if you didn't write enough business, they would just fire you. So at the end of any given month, if you didn't hit your numbers, you were just fired. So I worked 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. And unlike Deric, I didn't have to take out a loan to start that business, but there wasn't any really good cash flow, and it was not a sustainable model. And that's what I was looking for, a sustainable model. The more I learned about that company and the more I played golf with the C-level executives, the more I began to realize I didn't trust the leadership, and I didn't think they were making things as easy as possible for me. So the theme today is easy compared to what? I found myself with several different companies that were intentionally making it more difficult for me to make a living. And frustration begins to set in when you're grinding 10 or 12 hours a day and you feel like the guys at the top are not only not pulling for you, they're kind of making things harder on you. So again, I was looking, I transitioned back to a lead-driven, independent type sales situation. I was making decent money, but I was still driving to appointments. Most of those would have 2 or 3 counties where you had leads coming in. And if you didn't get any leads from your 2 or 3 counties, you just didn't work that week. And I was looking for something larger. I was licensed in like 30 states. And most of the IMOs were telling me, we just don't do business that way. And I knew I wanted to be more online, less traveling. And most IMOs were saying, that just doesn't exist. That's not how we do it. So I gravitated around and eventually was introduced to Deric Brock. And the first time we had a conversation, I had a 110-point contract. And he said, we all start at 70 here. And I said, why would I take like a 40-point haircut to come over here and work for you? And Deric said, well, how much money are you actually making on that 110 contract? And I thought about it for a second. And I said, not a lot. He said, well, if you could make more money on my contract, why wouldn't you come over here and do it? So I started tinkering around and sniffing around Symmetry Financial. And what I found was a model where the company tries to make it as easy as possible for me to make a living rather than making it as difficult as possible. And I also discovered a leadership team that from the very beginning, I found myself buying into. Now, the only thing I can say against the leadership in this company is they're a bunch of Alabama fans and I cheer for Auburn. But other than that, I had to lay it aside and say, okay, sorry about that. Anyway, I had to lay it aside and say, I believe these guys are actually looking out for the best interest of the company. And they're coming out with cutting edge technology and they're making cutting edge steps so that the people in the organization can have it as easy as possible. So I came in August, I believe, September, and I believe I've planted my flag. I mean, I don't see any reason to ever leave Symmetry Financial. And if I could say anything to a newer agent coming in, I've been doing this for 20 years and I have been around the business. I've been successful wherever I have been, but in those other places, the people at the top were working against me. The company was working against me. At Symmetry Financial, I have found a place where there is this updraft and everybody is trying to help you succeed. And if I follow the plan, I'll be successful as well. So that's my story and I'm sticking to it.
I love it, man. Thank you so much, John. Yeah, I love that, man. I appreciate it. And that's the gift that Brandon, Casey, and Brian gave us, is the culture they created. And we're just paying it forward. And I tell my team all the time, my objective as an agency builder here is to just honor the culture that they have created and add value to it. And we'll fight like heck to defend it. So
hey, after the Auburn comments, I'm probably done forever. They're probably kicking me out of the club. So
yeah, this is get it all out now. This is your one shot on the national stage.
Had to get my one shot in there.
You're not done. That was lovely, John. But you are on a 30% contract now.
Back to the bottom. Honestly, I got it.
I love it. All right. Well, we're going to shift gears. The next two people we have, I think, are they're both Texas Tech Red Raider graduates. I don't know that I can say anything that's not insulting about that, other than, nobody really hates Texas Tech. Texas Longhorns, maybe, yeah. But Texas Tech, both these people are just beautiful souls. And but I'm first going to let our young former engineer of our triumvirate we have here. I'm going to turn him loose on you. This guy is an agency owner as well, a top producer, and just really leads our entire organization from a position of just setting the example, setting the pace, and works hard, works intelligently, and has like everybody else has had his seasons of hard and things he's had to overcome, and persevere through to be where he is. And he's just getting started, man. He's going to build an army. And so I'm excited for him to take a few minutes and share with you. So Mr. Haydenberger, you're up, brother.
Hey, DB, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. I appreciate you obviously invited me to be on, and also participating in your organization and Marlins as well. So my name is Hayden. Obviously, I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak on here. Deric is making me sound a little smarter than I am. I was not necessarily an engineer. I was a landman. I bought and sold minerals. It's still, similar field, but this definitely beats a day in the office doing that, because all I did was spend my time in courthouses. So anyway, when I first got started with Symmetry, it was 2018. One of my mentors, Marlon Faulkner, he said, this business, he always said, it's not taught, it's caught. And when I was working in the oil and gas business, I used to see some leaderboards on Facebook. You don't think everybody's watching what you're doing. And I started seeing these leaderboards and dollar signs and numbers. And I was like, what is this? Is this monopoly money? Are these people, is this serious? And, my interest was piqued. I would say it definitely wasn't by myself. As we know, this is a family business. I have family in this business, and just grateful for the timing of when this business found me and where I am today. I think of, the title of this call today, hard compared to what. I think, man, before we were virtual and by phone, my first couple of weeks in the business, I was driving 5 hours away, and if I'm speaking to someone like myself, they're like, well, I never got to be in the field, but, we're virtual now, we're by phone. I'm not going to see people. It's going to be a lot harder. Is it really going to be harder? Or are you just making yourself believe that it's going to be harder? This journey for myself is, Danny Young always talks about the first 3 years, and I may butcher this, but when you show up and you plug in enough calls, you start to catch some of this. See, the first year, you learn a lot about yourself. Second year, you learn a lot about insurance. That third year is that year where you explode. And if I butchered that, you can send me a letter. I'll give you my address. I think I got close though. So, this opportunity for me it's shown a lot about myself. It's also, I've gotten to experience a lot of obstacles that I believe were lessons for me to go where it is that I'm trying to go, not only by myself, but with the team and these people that I get to surround myself with. So, as an agent, being out there, if you're brand spanking new, if you're not even licensed yet, just always have that mindset. Hey, when I may be going through this right now, but it's temporary. I'm going to share something with you guys. I'm 30 years old this year. I know, really cool. Most people don't look forward to that. I'm fired up. I know that if I'm alive, if I have my health, I'm good to go. One story I want to share with you. Last year, I'm not very vocal about these types of things as an individual, because I feel like if you give things attention that don't need it, they grow. Thoughts become things. Literally almost a year ago, I had had some cancer come up. Nobody would have known. I was literally running meetings. I was driving an hour and a half away. This is one of my weeks where I actually was still in the field, because this person, they just didn't do business over the phone or virtually. So I was like, all right, let's do it. I literally had surgery the next morning. I found out June 16th, June 18th, I was having surgery to remove what was going on. And I drove an hour and a half. I went out there because, how bad or how hard could this life really be? I'm not dead. I still have air in my lungs. If you can blow in a mirror and it fogs up, you're ready to go. You're large and in charge and ready to boogie. So I share that with you, not for you to, take pity on me or anything like that. But just whenever you go through something, just know it's temporary. Just know that it's not your life sentence. You have the ability to dictate and decide what you're going to do from there. And you may have a couple obstacles that you face that force you to go back to square one, but you don't have to go back there. You get to, because you're not ready yet, and it's teaching you something. So take it as a lesson. So that's all I have. And like Mr. John Love said, I'm going to stick to that story for now. I'm sure it'll change as we go, but it's pretty close.
Thank you, Hayden. Thanks for sharing that, man. It's really good, buddy. Proud of you.
All right, and now it's the school teacher, the school principal. One of my favorite people. I love the friendship that I've been able to build with she and her husband Jeff, and I'm telling you, she is a force to be reckoned with in this business, Brandon. She is building an army of good people out in West Texas. And again, a Texas Tech Red Raider, and so I know you can get your little guns up. But no, she's a agency owner. Has another agency owner is in the process of breaking out, qualifying as an agency owner, and they're just gonna start to pop out of that organization because they're doing things the right way. And she just got a great mentality, and people are drawn to her because she's genuine, and she leads by example, and she asks the right questions. And so let me introduce you to Miss Karen Earhart.
Well, hi, Deric. I'll just say that I'm very grateful for you. Kind of my Symmetry story coming in is that I didn't get recruited by Symmetry in any way. I was looking for a company that was a positive culture, and it didn't matter if we sold aspirin. That was the most important thing to me. And I did the research and found Symmetry and got hooked up with Deric. And I'm just super, super grateful for you, Deric, and what you've taught, because it is kind of a mantra, even become a mantra in our house. Harder than what? Harder than eating bad nachos. You can turn it into all kinds of things, even with your kids. But whenever you said that's what we were going to talk about today, is harder than what, I was thinking, what can I, add a value to that? And I think that harder than what is just perspective. And so what is our perspective on that? And Symmetry does such a great job in how the company has been set up and that culture, that drew me in. But it's the mindset. And I'm not going to talk about that too much because we just do the work of it and the things that we've been trained and the things that our leaders say in the personal development. But where I wanted to talk about on the perspective is our group, and our culture that we have within Deric's group is just so positive that, man, it can turn a perspective around if I'm ever tempted to think this is harder than something else. And I can call Deric, I can call mentor, anybody in our group I could probably call and say, I just feel a little bit off. I feel like my thinking is wrong, but I can't, get it squared away in my mind. What do I need to change? And, more and more, hopefully I will grow, and that won't be something I have to reach out about as much. But we get expanded on what's hard. And I do not have an example of this of my own, but I can share an example from my husband because I am so not athletic, but he's a bike rider and he'll ride 100 miles at a time. And, or more, compete in races. But when he started riding again, as an adult, 10 miles were hard. And he would struggle and, deal with hydration issues and stuff like that. And 10 miles were really hard. Well, now he does 10 miles, at lunch, or before work. And, but we can expand our ability to handle hard, with our growth here. And if I can't shake it, though, and I reach out to Deric or Marlon or somebody else in our group, why does it feel hard? It could be because my script's off. It could be because I don't understand that it's a numbers game. It could be that I'm in my head too much. But because we have a group that we can reach out to, then I can get that squared away a lot faster. And one day I was talking to Marlon Faulkner and told him something I was struggling with. And he just laughed. That was it. That's all it took. He laughed, and I was all of a sudden brought back to square one. He didn't have to give me a long lecture about mindset or what are you thinking or encouragement or whatever. He just laughed. And I thought, okay, if Marlon thinks that's funny, then my perspective's back. I'm not going to worry about this if that's what he thinks about it. But why can I reach up? Because of the culture that was created here and the bridges that are there. But it's not just, in my upline and Deric and, in Marlon, but the other people in our group. One of them that comes to my mind is Jody LaFrance. One day I had somebody be really ugly to me on the phone. And, rude is not my favorite personality trait. I could do without rude probably most days. But this person was so rude and it struck my mood wrong. And I was crying and just thinking, I just am going to grab about this for a minute. And I talked to Jody about it, and she said, Karen, that is not what's going to make Karen Earhart quit. And I wasn't even really tempted to quit at that time, but that's all she had to say. And it just brought me back to center. If that's not going to make me quit, I'm not going to, announce to the Symmetry world, I'm ringing the bell because somebody was rude on the phone to me. That's not going to happen. There are many, many things way harder than somebody being rude or having a down week or getting, getting some no's or think about it several times in a row. But the mindset training has been awesome, but just wanted to highlight our group and the culture and how we lean on each other and have just such a great support group that makes it not be as hard. And if we start thinking it is, then we have those people that can just turn that around quickly with us. And I'm grateful for that, not only for you doing it directly, Deric, but our entire group for being available to do that whenever we need to be snapped back a little bit. Or when I need to be snapped back a little bit.
No, I love that. And I appreciate you bringing that perspective, because that's what we want to be all about. We're here to help people. And that means in absolutely every facet of what we do here. And I am also just like Carl said on the builders call, hey, listen, I'm not saying anything new here. I'm just parroting what I've been taught. I'm just following the leader. And I've got the best leaders, the best mentors. I am, because of the way this conversation started, I am direct to Marlon Faulkner and the Nate Offer, Matt and Brad Smith, Edward Pritchett hierarchy. And man, you just can't do any better than that. And so I'm just incredibly blessed. And so I want to close with this, just kind of bring this into a landing. I love how Jim Rohn says, life is opportunity mixed with difficulty. And that's really life in a nutshell, isn't it? And the beauty is we get to choose how we respond to the difficulty that comes. And a crucial piece of that puzzle is to make the decision how we're going to respond before the difficulty or the hard ever shows up. And how do we do that? We do that by having standards. We've got to establish standards in our life and in our business that are absolutely non-negotiable. And, a standard of integrity, a standard of behavior. I mean, a phrase that I use, I want our team, I try to live my life this way. And because this is my standard, I can call people up to it. I want to live above reproach in every area of my life. And if I do that, then I'm fine with what comes out of it. Because I know it's going to be blessed, and I know I'm going to be a blessing to the people around me. So we got to have standards of integrity and behavior, standards of response. And our business and our life will rise to the level of our non-negotiable standards. So we've talked about, we've mentioned, some colleges here, and people like me think immediately, I hear a college name, I'm thinking football. And I know that you Alabama guys, you Auburn guys, you Tech people, everybody's got their team. Well, I'm a proud Oklahoma Sooner. That's my school. I'm an alum, and if you follow that at all, I'm bringing this in for a point. We had a coaching change in this winter, and a significant upgrade in the head coaching department for our football program. It came to light that our coach had betrayed us and had one foot out the door before the season ever started. And, and that just exposed him for what he was. A person has integrity until he doesn't, right? And so, but what we got in that upgrade is we had Brent Venables come back home, where he made a name for himself in the first place. He's come back to be our head coach, and immediately the culture shift began. And because he began to talk about standards, and he speaks a different language. He's not soft. He's not distracted. He's focused on not just building a good football program, but building good young men who are going to go be impactful in life. And he made a comment last week that really, really resonated with me, that I think really speaks to who we are as a culture. And if you're on this call, this is your first time to be a part of a call like this with this company, well, I want to welcome you to the family. This is a family that these guys have created, and I'm just blessed to be adopted into it. And we have a standard here, and it's not going to be lowered for anybody and for any reason. They're non-negotiable. And here's the comment that Brent Venables made to a group of donors just last week. He said, when we raise the standard, we lose the losers. And when we lower the standard, we lose the winners. That's what we want to be about. Now, the beauty of that is you get to identify for yourself, are you a loser or are you a winner? And that will be a product of the decisions you make, right? And the ownership you take of where you are in life and where you're going from here. But his experience has been, as he's come into our football program, he's had players that mailed it in and said, you know what, we don't want to be a part of this. This is not our language. And that's fine. There's the door. God bless you. Because he's not lowering the standard for anybody. And as a result, the standard and the atmosphere in the program, and really the impact it's had in the state, has been palpable. And I respect that. That's what we want to be about. That's the impact we're having in our communities. You know, as a team, our families are stronger, our communities are stronger, our nation, as cheesy as that may sound, the United States of America is a better place because Symmetry Financial Group exists. And I'm proud of that. And I wear that badge with honor. And I also take it as a great responsibility. I promise you, Brandon, Casey, and Brian, I will uphold the standard. Not on my watch will the standard fall. And will what you guys have given your life to build, it's not going to be diminished because of me. I'm going to do my part. And so we each get to make that decision. So that's your gift today. You get to decide which person do you want to be. And we encourage you to establish winning standards and refuse to move off of them. Embrace the heart of life and the heart of this business. Keep things in perspective and go walk into the life you want. You don't have to settle for anything less. Brandon?
Love it. I don't have anything else to say other than well done, sir. John, Hayden, Karen, great job. Thank you guys for sharing with us. I hope you've been following the chat. They've been blowing you up down there, and very appreciative and grateful for all the words of wisdom. So thank you guys.
Incredible job. See you guys next week.
Yep. See ya.